Roman is the biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling.
When's the last time you got laid?
French Toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro, less people wanted that than are currently watching our stream.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this evening by Matt Cascone and James Ashanti, here to review WWE's Money in the Bank pay-per-view 2024. Matt got the bling on already in celebration of their pay-per-view. Sorry, hopefully my laptop is not going to reset now because I have an update. Okay.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed their 4th of July as we finish up the weekend with this pay-per-view, or if you used to call them PLEs, it's such a stupid name. And we begin with our first match of the evening, which was the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. It saw Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable, LA Knight, and Drew McIntyre face off for an opportunity to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think we had a very obvious winner here as Drew McIntyre was able to climb the ladder at the end after knocking off Jey Uso, who looked primed to grab the briefcase, and Drew was able to win. We'll get into what Drew did with the briefcase a bit later. But Matt, I thought this was a good match. I thought the women's one was better, which we'll also get to later, but I enjoyed this match. I thought the right person won here because it advanced the storylines it needed to advance. MVPs of the night for me in this match, Chad Gable and Andrade looked fantastic. So I'll get into them a bit more after you talk about. But what were your thoughts on the men's Money in the Bank and Drew McIntyre taking the briefcase?
I mean, this is the start of a bad night for me personally.
Matt, I'm going to let you go first. I just need you to know it. I am a devastated, emotional husk of a person after the entire show. Not just the obvious, but from beginning, there was, oh man, there's just so much sadness in my heart right now.
I mean, you and me can play Russian roulette once we sign off. Sound good?
Yeah, definitely. Let's just say hi to Jack, Scape TNT Goat Perry. Jack, happy to have you back. You were awesome this week. Thank you for being here. Let's have some fun tonight.
Yeah, Jack, I hope you liked the show. I didn't, and it started with this match. I mean, if you didn't check our socials, my picks tonight, maybe not my picks, but my hopefuls, the people that I hoped would win was Chad Gable and Chelsea Green. I think I'll say this. I was most shocked that there were no run-ins, distractions, yada, yada, yadas in this match. I think
you yada yada the best part.
What's up?
You yada yada the best part.
Yes, I yada yada over the best part. No, I mentioned the bisque.
That was good. That was good.
But yes, I was at Seinfeld night at the Yankee Stadium last night. It was a good time. So me and James had talked about it personally. I don't think we talked about it on the pod. We thought that Logan Paul was set to usurp LA Knight, cost him Money in the Bank. That would progress their story so that LA Knight would face Logan Paul at SummerSlam for the U.S. title. I imagine that match is still happening, but again, there was no distraction tonight, which kind of stunk. I also thought maybe that the Wyatt Six would get involved, whether they cost Chad Gable or Jey Uso. I was hoping Jey Uso because he has kind of stolen the Fireflies. And, Jey Uso has been very adamant that, you can have them back. I don't want any trouble from the Wyatt Six. But I think that would be great if the Wyatt Six was just like, nah, fuck you, bro. We're still going to mess up your shit. And then last of all, but not least, I thought CM Punk would cost Drew McIntyre the match. But instead, we'll get into that later on. I think CM Punk has proven himself to be as a character, the biggest shithead like fucking motherfucker. God, I fucking hate you so much. Like, you're the most selfish prick in pro wrestling, character-wise. Like, I don't know you personally. We've met one time. You were nice, but I paid for that, experience. So I would hope you'd be fucking nice after I paid you. But as a character, CM Punk, you're a fucking selfish prick. And I hope it comes back to bite him in the butt. We'll get into that later about Punk. So, God, the start of just like, I think there was one thing I liked tonight. And just, God damn it, James, you go. Let's see if you can top my sadness.
Let's Oreo this. Let's put some happiness in the middle. Rev, what do you think of it?
Sandwich that shit. Because we were the market down, not the down in the dumps podcast.
Mark it down in the dumps. James, I don't have much of a horse in any of these races as you guys do.
Fucking asshole! Look at him! Fuck you!
No, get away from the screen. They might take us down.
Nah, it'll be all right. Yeah, but
quick enough, right?
Yeah, you were fine. No, as I was saying, I don't have as much of a stake in all these matches as you guys do because while I keep up with WWE, usually just through like post show threads on Reddit or whatever, I don't watch it every week and I don't have the emotional investment I think that you guys do. So I'm fine with Drew winning just because I thought the storyline for what everything happened had played out well. I thought it was funny that there was no interference in the match, which I thought was actually a bit of a swerve in and of itself. And it was kind of cool to just watch this straight up happen. Jey Uso getting knocked off the ladder at the end by fucking Drew, and I mean this on purpose, yeeting a ladder at his face was a great way to end the match. And like I said, Gable and Andrade in this match were phenomenal. Andrade had that leg drop on Gable at the beginning when Gable had, I think, the armbar in the ladder to start. Gable suplexed a ladder. Andrade hit that sunset flip on, I forget who it was, but he hit it onto the ladder that was, horizontal. I thought that those two guys just absolutely killed it. Dark horse for MVP, Carmelo Hayes as well. He looked really good. I mean, The kid's obviously a prodigy. So, look, you might not have liked the results and what happened, but I thought the match itself was still really good. I thought it delivered. I agreed with, I believe it was Chris in our chat, Chris LeClaire. Yep. Let me see if I find it. That the women's match I thought was better than the men's. But I do think, James, that this match still delivered, and I very much enjoyed it.
I agree. So we have a term here on the Mark It Down podcast, Matt. I don't know if we've gotten the chance to use it with you since you've been with us.
I thought that was my term. Out real quick. Not only have the women done a better Money in the Bank, they did a better Royal Rumble this year. So they're 2-for-2 right now. Please go.
Before we get back into this match, I will say with the women, I think it's even more impressive that match was better because I think it had a rough start and they really turned it around pretty quickly. That there were some botches, there were some rough spots, but then they really made it something magical.
I thought there were at least 3 concussions in that women's match.
Seriously. But back here to the men, we have a term here on the Mark It Down podcast, Matt, and it's called Adam Copelanding, where we're getting edged. We're just consistent. I don't want to make the gesture because we're not at the 10-minute mark because it's vulgar, but we're so close to the edge, and there's never been release. And that's how I feel with Drew McIntyre. I'm getting Adam Copelanded really hard right now. Keep being told that I'm going to get something good, but I have this Chicago another 30 seconds.
Dude, Matt already said fuck like 6 times already. You're fine.
Yeah, but if we could get past it, I don't want to contribute to it.
The algorithm, like if you don't,
it hurts with monetization, which we're getting really close.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Little behind the scenes stuff for you guys there.
3, 2, 1. Fuck you,
Punk,
you piece of shit. I hate you. I've hated you since 2009 when you screwed Jeff Hardy. And then you ruined. Everyone loves Money in the Bank because of that match with Cena. fuck you. You ruined my night then too. Then you ruined my night against Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan back then. You've been ruining my wrestling life for over a decade. You've ruined AEW for people. Now you're ruining Drew Mac. I just want to see the guy win. I'm very happy he won. This was great. It was great that he won the briefcase until it wasn't. And we'll talk about that. But are these happy tissues or sad tissues? It's a little bit of both tonight. And I thought the match itself was very strong. Carmelo Hayes had some really standout moments. I got to give it to him too. Andrade had some standout moments too.
He was bumping his ass off.
Yeah, he really was. I know it's easy to rip on him, and quite frankly, he's earned a lot of us crapping on him. But he had some really good spots in this matchup. Jey Uso was there. I don't think he did anything wrong, but I don't think he did anything spectacular in the matchup.
He got a good neck breaker on Chad Gable very early on. It's in my
it was good. It was good, but is it the type of spot we're going to be talking about super later on? I don't think so, personally. I think the spot you're gonna talk about with him is getting a fucking ladder yeeted into his face. Exactly. I was weird. Like when I thought for a second Jey was winning, and I would have been happy with Jey winning. Drew was my guy for this matchup. I wanted Drew to win, but when it looked like Jey was winning, I thought it was a great spot when he took the ladder out from Chad's legs. I thought that was a great spot. It kind of led to a whatever moment with the spear. Like I know he was going to spear him as he fell, right? or something. Maybe or maybe Chad holds on and then he kind of recreates the Edge Jeff Hardy spear. Yeah, I think that would have been like from WrestleMania 17. I think that would have been cool to try to accomplish.
Sold that drop like fantastically.
Yeah. Oh no, he did. Ow! It's not a knock on Chad at all. Chad did great. I thought Chad had I loved him hitting that armbar on Drew before Andrade hit the leg drop on him from the ladder. I thought that was an excellent spot. I thought Chad hitting the ankle lock from one ladder to the other was awesome.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I think Chad had some great moments. I think Andrade had some great moments. I think low-key Carmelo was the workhorse of the match. He was involved in a lot of spots and making sure the ladders were set up in the right places. So I got to give a lot of credit to Carmelo there. LA Knight was fine. He was one of the most over of the match. I'd say it was like Jay and then like LA, like right underneath him. But he didn't do too much that was just wowie, but it was nice. One of the things I will say about this matchup, and I don't think any of us really said it, I love the pacing of the matchup. Sometimes these matches get a little bloated that will get like 8 men. I think it's gone as high as 9 men before. The 6 men really worked well here. I think all 6 men had time, even if not all of them necessarily got to super shine. But I think the pacing of the matchup was great with all 6 men.
I think the Swagger one was 10 men.
I believe you. I believe you. So and sometimes I do like the chaos, but I think it was great here with the 6 guys. I think it was perfect. I do want to go to the comments. We've been ignoring the comments for a little bit here. Yeah. Jack Scapegoat saying he's glad he chose Collision. He watched the Money in the Bank men's match only. Hangman versus Jay White was wild. Christian cost Jay his match, building their feud.
Spoiler.
Like you were going to go watch Collision.
Honestly, dude, I was keeping up with it on Twitter because I was, live tweeting the show. Bad. Some shit looks good.
Collision is hitting lately from what I've been told. EVP's band BBG. What's BBG?
Bullet Club Gold.
Thank you. Wait, no, it can't be.
Oh, Bang Bang Gang. I'm an idiot.
Bang Bang Gang. Right, same thing. From Ringside helping Hangman also. Scapegoat saying he's heard some critics to this premium live event. Chris Leclerc saying that he had picked Jey Uso and Tiffany Stratton. So you might not be too sad with how tonight went, Chris. Scapegoat saying Matt the Wyatt Cascone, Nicholas EVP Cummings, and James the Goat Gisanti. How you doing? Jack, you're becoming one of my favorite commenters here. We have some great people here, but you're warming me up. Nas, what up, dude? You had some great tweets tonight. I'm glad our Twitter was on top of that and highlighting you. Always
Nas
interacting.
Nas completely nailed the situation for the Drew cash-in. So
we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Right?
What?
Nas is Ignacio.
Ignacio, yeah. Man.
Yeah, he saw. Didn't he see Donald Glover tonight?
I don't know.
I can't check my phone because my phone's right here.
Chris Leclerc, Chelsea Green wasn't going to win Money in the Bank. She should have.
Yeah, but it was really funny watching her try.
Oh yeah, and she was a star of this match in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
JL, Bron got buried. That's not an unpopular opinion, but I disagree. But we'll talk about it.
I disagree too.
JL looks like Yeet is all smoke and mirrors. Whoa! But no, I disagree. What?
That's a good pun.
Thank you. I disagree. I don't think he's all smoke and mirrors. I don't think he's ever going to be confused for an A+ worker. But he puts on a competent match. He's got good ring psychology, good storytelling, in my opinion. It's just he's not going to be a 5-star guy. But that's fine, in my opinion.
Have to be. I mean, like, the crowd is behind him.
Yeah.
Do something.
And he's serviceable. It's not like he's embarrassing himself in the ring. He's having decent to good matches a lot. Yeah, I think the match against Jimmy Uso at WrestleMania really hurt his reputation as a worker. That match was not great, but it is not indicative of the performer he is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What I don't think is I thought this was a perfect setup for him to like start a feud with the Wyatt Six. Like, if Uncle Howdy has to have a first person to have a match with, you can do a lot worse than Jey Uso.
But it's going to be Gable. It's going to be Gable.
Hurt by losing a match against, Uncle Howdy.
We'll get into that in a second.
There's also going to be, they said with the Wyatt Six, they're going to have their fingers in a lot of different pots.
Yes.
So there's going to be a lot between going on, probably not just Gable and Uso, but other people as well. As for what we're talking about, Jey, the thing with Jey's matches is, like you said, James, he's a good enough worker where everything looks really good, but all of his stuff is so story driven. Yes, that's what makes his matches. It's not necessarily the ring work, even though he is, as you said, he's more than a serviceable wrestler. Yes,
exactly. And just with him winning Money in the Bank, I think the reality of it is they want to keep him clear, untethered, and unentangled when they get him back involved with the Bloodline. Because that's going to happen sooner than later. And one less thing that's wrapped up in the Bloodline storyline is A-okay with me as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, although at some point that's going to happen too, probably the Wyatt Six and Roman, because of the history there.
Roman had it coming. Scapegoat saying Matt is pissed and he's LOLing. I
was reading these two comments while you guys were going off, and I could not stop laughing.
Scapegoat saying old Toxic Phil made new victims, I see. No, long-time victim. Scapegoat saying, did WWE forget about them having women's titles? Premium live events without a women's title, men's tag titles haven't been defended on premium live events since Mania. Also, weird booking, that's all. Here is the fact. WWE has successfully tricked their audience, into being okay with 5-match pay-per-views.
So, dude, it was so weird watching that tonight because there was so much fucking time to kill between matches. And I always complain with AEW pay-per-views that they never let the matches breathe. I forgot what match and what had happened by the time they got to the next one. It was so much time to kill. And you easily could have fit, like, if you gave me 6 matches, I probably would have been fine. And I know that 6th match was probably taken up by, John Cena, but if you had gotten rid of a good chunk of just the bloat surrounding these matches, you could have had a 6-match and 7 segments total, and it would have been fine.
Realistically, the pay-per-view ended at 10:15.
Yeah.
Raw doesn't end at 10 o'clock. It ends at 11. So I don't really understand what they were. Go ahead.
And I appreciate it, but
this pay-per-view started at 7. They usually start at 8.
True. All right, that is a good point.
So that's why. But I will disagree with you, James. I notice. I'm like, why are there 5 matches on this pay-per-view? It should be 6. AEW, way too many matches on their pay-per-views. Like, they do 10. WWE, they've been doing way not enough. They should do 6 or 7. The fact of the matter is, I agree with that comment. Either Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega for the women's title should have been on this card. Or, in my personal opinion, while I do think the women should be represented more, the fact that Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa just won the tag titles on SmackDown, I think they should have saved that for this pay-per-view. That way you have a title change on the pay-per-view. And also the fact that Toronto means a lot to both Tommaso and to Johnny. And we just got tag titles changed on Raw like a week ago. So it's not like we haven't had a tag title change on television. We just had that. Why are you doing it again? Save it for the pay-per-view. Have a 6th match on the pay-per-view. 5, like you can get away with 5, but there was room for another match that would fit perfectly for the tag titles or the women's title match. In my opinion.
Completely agree. Danny L34 saying Chelsea Green for president. Sure. She's Canadian, so I don't know if we'd be able to make that happen.
Chelsea Green for prime minister, then.
All right, Danny L34 saying Jay is abysmal on the mic. I did see here. Can I real quick? Or
go ahead, because I have a feeling we're going to say the same thing.
Jay is incredible on the mic. We saw that in his feud against Roman in the beginning, especially during the Thunderdome era. The problem is Yeet has become the dominating force in his character. Yeah. And we lost a lot of the nuance. We lost a lot of the layers to this character, unfortunately. I think we're going to see it again when he gets reintegrated into the Bloodline storylines. But all he is right now is Yeet. And it's fun. I've been in a crowd while he's doing it, and it gets me pumped up. But it's not – we're losing something in that regard.
Yeah. It's whenever somebody just runs their catchphrase into the ground every time, you get bored of it. And like you said, James, it's now his whole character. Yeah. And we're missing, main event Jey Uso. In return, we're getting Yeet Jey Uso. And there should be a middle balance there. There's a middle ground they could find and make him back to what he was. Yeah.
Danny saying Rev going off just now. Matt going off too, and James needs to step it up. I'm getting trashed out here.
Look, no, you're doing fine.
I surround myself with the most talented people I know, and I was going to make fun of somebody on the pod, but I didn't want to do that. We are professionals, and I got to step up my game to these fine gentlemen. Danny, thank you for calling me out. Scapegoat saying at Chris, what was the best match you've seen tonight since you watched both WWE and AEW? That's a great question, Scapegoat. Thank you for asking him. Love when the comments go to each other here. Scapegoat said, all right, we'll talk about it later. We'll come back to this one. And Danny,
he hit him in the gooch.
Yeah. Danny 34 saying, I hear what you're saying, James. Appreciate that, Danny. Love when we can communicate. And if I'm wrong, tell me when I'm wrong, please. Not you two, though. I'm fragile, but the comment.
I will politely correct you in an effort for to keep things correct on the record.
Before we move on, I'm looking at our numbers across social media, across YouTube, across everything. We got a lot of numbers tonight, so guys, thank you for being here. If you're a newbie and this is the first time you're streaming with us, if this is the first time you're watching us, thank you for joining us. Thank you for clicking on us. If you can, hit that like button. That way we know that you like what we're doing, so we can keep doing it. And if you want to stick around, hit the subscribe button. We cover WWE, we cover AEW, we cover TNA, we pretend to cover New Japan, and we never cover Saturdays, but we like to think we do. So stick with us. We have fun. And of course, if you're watching us anywhere else, if you're watching us on Facebook, if you're watching us on X, if you're watching us anywhere, thank you. And just keep engaging. We love you guys. We're marks just like you, so mark out with us. Go ahead, Matt.
We do cover Saturdays when it comes to pay-per-views.
There you go.
They do the swap. WWE, they said they're going to go to Sundays because of the whole UFC deal they got going on. I hope when that happens, if they keep doing this 5-match thing, fine. Do it on Sundays. Yeah. AEW, you can take your 10 matches and do it on Saturday.
I'll say this, too. If they're going to do it on Sundays, start it again at 7 o'clock like you did tonight. It was great. And NXT's tomorrow, too. So we'll see what time they start. Maybe that gives us a little insight. Into what might be happening in the future. All right. Unless you guys have anything more on the men's Money in the Bank, we'll move along here. I think most of it was just you guys yelling at CM Punk, but that's fine.
And
I'll do it again. I will do it again.
The fucking goofy meme.
On the Mark It Down podcast, you'll see who I was rooting for.
Yeah. I was wondering who tweeted that too. I was like, oh, okay. All right, let's move on to our next match, which saw Sami Zayn face off against Bron Breakker for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Sami, excuse me, I've been at a bachelor party all weekend. My voice is a little shot. Not as much as Corey Graves is, but it's a little shot.
He had like over 100 fever.
Yeah, he said it. He said in the post show he had 102 fever.
That's insane.
And he called like 5 shows in the last week or something. God bless him. Anyway, obviously Sami Zayn won with a haluva kick to retain his championship. We saw in the comments earlier, I think it was Jack Scapegoat saying, James, that it wasn't Jack, it was JL saying he thinks Braun got buried. I think there's a small argument to be made for that, but we were talking during the show that Braun did have the majority of the offense in this match. I thought he looked really, really good in the loss. It's just he, as a younger guy in WWE, got overconfident, got overzealous, got caught, and that's what ended up costing him the match.
No, I agree. And let's really look at who the Bron Breakker character has been since he's debuted on the main roster. He has been a force to be reckoned with. He has demolished people. Has anyone seen Ricochet? I haven't. But
no, you might have to look on Wednesdays.
But the reality is the majority of those beatdowns, the majority of that brutality came outside of the ring. He's been getting wins. He has been dominant in his matchups, but the majority of his strength, the majority of his persona right now is being a bully outside the ring. So I think it's kind of great that we got this first loss out of the way, as opposed to it being built into this huge thing for later on. So I think that's kind of good in its own right. And 2, I don't think it takes away from what he has been. I think it's going to strengthen it. We're going to see a guy who's even angrier, who's even more unhinged, and he is just probably going to wreck Sami on Monday. Or whoever gets in his way. It doesn't need to be Sami. It could be over. But he's not done being a spearing monster. As for the matchup itself, yeah, I think he was dominant for the majority of it. And wow, my voice squeaked on that one.
Don't worry, that's going to happen to me a lot tonight.
Right? The matchup saw a dominant force in Bron Breakker just bringing the heat to Sami Zayn. And Sami only ever really got offense in when he was playing the role of the crafty veteran. And I don't want to make it seem like Sami eked out a win. I don't think that was the case. But this was a case of experience versus youth. Yeah. And we saw the experience win here, and I thought that was a very good story. We saw Bron.
Commentary was selling throughout the match as well.
And we saw throughout the matchup that Bron was countering a good amount of Sami's moves. He countered a haluva kick. He countered Sami's running through
the DDT.
The running flying DDT that he does on the outside. We saw Bron bring it to Sami. It's just Sami caught him on a mistake and was able to hit him with that haluva kick. Now, I did see somebody say one haluva kick maybe shouldn't have been enough. Maybe we should have gotten a second haluva kick, but I'm okay with that. This isn't Gunther, who was on 666 days of being an Intercontinental Champion. This is Gunther, who hasn't really done too much yet on the main roster. He could become
who hasn't done too much yet.
What did I say?
You said Gunther, who hasn't done too much.
Oh, my bad. Thank you. This is Breakker, who hasn't done that much yet and will get there. So he is a young kid still. There's plenty of time to make him seem like an unstoppable monster. We don't need to be there right now, especially on a roster that has so many unstoppable monsters.
Right. And I agree. And I it wasn't just Gunther coming off the most historic title, Intercontinental title run ever. It's also Gunther at WrestleMania. And James, you and I have had this discussion / argument a couple of times, but guys are going to kick out of more finishers at WrestleMania. It's the adrenaline, it's the stage. Yes, and I think 3 was a good amount for Gunther. I think 1 here for Breakker. I think is fair. And I
Yes.
thought he looked fine. I mean, he was so strong, he broke the fucking announce desk. He knocked Corey off the air. Or, excuse me, he knocked Cole off the air for a minute. Corey had a carry, and he was panicking because I don't think he thought his voice was going to be able to do play-by-play for the rest of the match.
Yeah.
But, Matt, I thought Breaker, like I said, looked really, really good in this loss. And the match told a good story, as James was describing, that Cole even called Sami cerebral. So the cerebral Sami Zayn ends up taking the win over the overzealous rookie because, at the end of the match, you saw him charge in. Sami baited him, hit the exploder suplex in the corner, and then the haluva kick for the dub.
Yeah, this was the match that I really liked. Like, this is the match. I don't know if you call it match of the night, but I guess it was my favorite match. It's a shame. I think that it had to go on second. Not great placement for it, but
yeah, crowd was still loud though. And even though I think the mics were like either kind of muted or I'm just deaf after this weekend, but you could tell there was a lot of energy there. I just don't think it translated well on TV. But it's Sami Zayn in Canada. They were very clearly loud.
Yeah, regardless, I think having Bron win here would have been a mistake. You have Sami Zayn, who beat the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time.
Honky Tonk Man? I'm sorry.
Miz?
Hey, Miz gets another title reign, then sure. He can make that claim. But
we know Danny really wants that. We know Danny really wants that.
So, fine. We'll just say the longest. Sami Zayn, who beat the longest reigning Intercontinental champion of all time. I think, his first big, hot opponent, like the new kid on the block that's like you turning heads, like that guy beats you on the first try, I think would have been a mistake. I think there's plenty that Bron Breakker can still do. I mean, I've said it in the past that I think he should have stuck with Corbin for a little bit longer, like bring them up to the main roster, because Corbin's doing nothing right now. He
got attacked in the pre-show, I think. Santos Escobar and his crew. And then Apollo Crews, of all people, bailed him out.
Well, they had a little thing on
NXT.
It was either SmackDown or Raw where they were together and they were backstage. So
hey, we're both jobbing. Do you want to up and job together? Like, maybe we can elevate ourselves above jobbing. And I'm like, I don't think so, dude. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm an old school Uha Nation fan, but I don't think there's anything else they can do. But so I thought this was good. I thought it was a good match. I would have even liked to have seen a fatal 4-way and then do the Bron Breakker match after, but still have the same result. And eventually, I think Bron Breakker will probably beat Sami for the title, but definitely don't have it in the first matchup. Keep things interesting. Keep things extended a little bit, and see where it goes. And like I said, I think James is right. We'll probably see Bron destroy somebody tomorrow, and he'll be even angrier and more dangerous than ever.
Yeah.
Is it bad I low-key want to see him spear Adam Pearce in half?
Well,
bring it on.
Was killing Adam Pearce after the show.
So. Yeah, I was going to talk about that in a bit. But
wait, what happened? I missed it.
Drew invaded the post-show desk and was screaming at Punk that he wanted to fight him. A couple referees came over to try to escort him off. He pushed the refs down.
Oh, it's not even a big deal.
And then Adam Pearce came over to try to grab him, and he grabbed Drew from behind, and Drew hit him with a back elbow. And Pearce went ballistic, and Drew was going to fight him, and Wade Barrett bear hugged Drew.
That I saw. I only saw him with the refs. I didn't see him with Scrap Daddy, but okay, cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I didn't want to jump into a comment.
I couldn't hear you at all there, Matt.
What was that, Matt?
Oh, just love Scrap Daddy. He gave me tickets to 205 Live years ago. So
there you go.
Cool. I wanted to jump in the comments because Danielle34 had said, I feel the IC title is fading into irrelevancy, especially after what Gunther did for it. If it changed hands, I feel it wouldn't have meant anything close to what it could have meant for Braun. Now, I think part of that, and Danny called it hyperbolic, in the chat. I would agree with that. It's not that it's fading back into irrelevancy. We're coming off, an incredibly historic reign. Anything following that is going to feel lesser than, at least for a while. So while I think Sami is having a good reign so far, he's only had it 90 days.
Yeah.
So you got to give the guy a little more time to really, really do something with this title.
And the reality is, too, we've had some pretty good stories with this title reign so far. The Sami Zayn, Chad Gable storyline has been incredible.
Yep.
It's elevated Gable a lot. This Bron Breakker, not necessarily the feud, but this has been an exciting little story between the two guys. So I would say it's been, like, again, compared to Gunther's reign, it's sure, whatever. But in general, I've been very much enjoying this reign. And the reality is, too, where was the U.S. title tonight?
I don't even know who was the U.S. champion. I was trying to figure it out. I don't remember. Seriously, who is it?
We are going to find out.
Oh,
my God, it's Logan Paul.
It's still low. Okay, that's why I couldn't remember. Because I try to keep that man off my mind as much as possible. But yeah, I just think that Gunther is operating at such a different level right now. Whoever was going to get this title after was going to be in a tough position. And I think Sami, considering who he is and like how that win worked and then everything after it, he's still over enough and he's still good enough where he can follow such a reign and be okay. It's going to feel lesser than. It's just the way it's going to work. But I wouldn't say that it's irrelevant or fading back to. It's just kind of returning to the mean, for lack of a better phrase.
Danny, 34, saying, now I'm not going to pretend to know what hyperbolic means, but he really thinks Sami's reign is meaning nothing right now. I thought that was a really funny comment, Danny.
I know what hyperbolic means, but I don't think Matt knows what hyperbolic means. Do you know, James?
I'm pretty sure I know the words.
All right. Well, I'll go into the hyperbolic time chamber while you guys do the rest of this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't mind seeing like Sami do a weekly open challenge, kind of like a throwback to John Cena. I think that's something that could, maybe keep the eyes on the title, and he could even he doesn't have to have a super long reign as long as he's getting in a lot of TV time as well as a lot of successful defenses. I think that's something that could be helpful, and that's something they should consider. They have 3 hours on Raw every week, something they could easily fit in to the show.
Absolutely.
And I think Sami will have a decently lengthy reign. They obviously don't want to do it as long as Gunther's was, but
Nor should they.
Yeah, obviously not. But I think in order to keep the prestige of the title, Sami's going to have to hold it for a while to make his win over Gunther mean something.
Yes.
So if Sami has a lengthy reign as well, then it'll make that win much more important.
But that said, I would not be upset if Breakker does take the title from Sami on the next run.
Me neither. I think it should be a while, but I would agree with that. I think Breakker is being groomed enough, and he's in a good enough position, and quite frankly, he's good enough to be slingshotted to that IC title.
He was phenomenal in this matchup. He can do everything. He's so explosive, and everything he does looks crisp. His spear is fantastic.
He is an athlete.
Yeah, he is. All them syllables. I loved that elbow drop he did from the apron to the table. I thought that was so good. I thought that was so good. He can do so much. So just the sky's the limit with this kid.
Yeah,
Just,
and he's good on the mic. You learn from the best.
Just don't say the things your dad says. But
just try to stick to the regular math.
Yeah. But
although I think he already cut that promo.
Yeah, he did. He did cut his uncle's promo beautifully. All right, let's move on.
Yep, we got to move on to the part where James cries. After a lengthy break, we then came back to Tiffany Stratus. I could not remember, not Tiffany, Trish Stratus. Jesus Christ! They put the two of them next to each other, and now my brain is breaking. But
bonk.
No, just because they look alike. Trish was the host for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. as this, she is a native of Toronto, and she introduced what was supposed to be a surprise, but then somebody took a picture with him beforehand, one John Cena. And it was during this segment that John Cena announced his farewell tour and eventual retirement at the end of next year, which he later clarified during his post-show press conference. So John will be back for the debut of Raw on Netflix. He will be at the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and he said he will be doing about 30 to 40 dates throughout 2025 all the way to December, when he'll have his eventual retirement match. James,
Let Matt go first. Go first.
He also said he would be at Elimination Chamber as well.
Yes, he did specifically mention Elimination Chamber by name, saying that these were all opportunities for him, assuming he would be in the Chamber or the Rumble, for him maybe to try to get one last run or one last title match and go from there. But so while James composes himself, Matt, obviously this is a huge deal. It's going to be interesting to see what Cena does, I think, in the future. Obviously, there's a lot of matches. He's I was saying, well, blonde women look the same. But Matt, I think there's a lot of unknowns here. Cena was saying in the press conference that somebody asked him like who he wants to work with, like what are his dream matches, and he goes, the entire roster. I've barely worked with any of these people. We can run it back with a few old classics too if we want, like a Randy Orton. But what were your immediate thoughts and emotions following Cena announcing his eventual retirement?
I mean, I kind of saw it coming, and not just because of the shirt, which, by the way, he's back to another red shirt. Can we get a maroon shirt for this guy? Like, there's so many colors he hasn't used yet.
It's all got to be primary colors, all got to be vibrant colors. My big complaint about the shirts, I'm sick of seeing an animated version of him on the shirt. Give me words again. Give me like anything else. I'm tired of looking like I'm wearing a G.I. Joe shirt. Literally a G.I. Joe shirt.
I
was say his best one was the Super Mario Brothers when he's in the Tanuki suit, but Nintendo immediately CD'd it. So.
And that one was an NFT.
That didn't do well.
Thank God.
I
love you, John, but no NFTs.
So yeah, I think it's interesting that he announced it now, because he basically said, I'm going to start in January. So that's how many months away? That's over 6 months.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah, it's about 6 months away. So it's not like someone could have come out and been like, oh, you're retiring. Well, like, screw you. Or like, let's have a match right now. Or let's have a match tomorrow night. You know what I mean? Like, his segment was just his retirement and nothing else. Or like, not even an attitude adjustment to somebody, which I think the crowd would have enjoyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel like he just did that with Grayson Waller like a few months ago at a pay-per-view. So maybe it would have felt too similar, but I don't think the crowd would have complained at the same time.
I think this needed to be a moment. I think this needed to be John with us. Because I think from January on, it's going to be John Cena, the wrestler. Not John Cena, the visitor, which is what he has been for a good amount of time these last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I think this needed to be us getting used to it. That way, when it starts, we're just focusing on what he's doing and not what's coming next. So, but that's just me.
No, that's a good point. And as far as people he could face off against, I think number one on my list, I'd love to see him face Kevin Owens again and lose.
That'd be fantastic.
Like, lose to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens needs a big win. And it's a shame we won't be able to get a John Cena versus Edge. You know, that's something I think they really messed up on not doing when Edge came back. Like,
so I've seen a lot of people. May I just interject on that for a second?
By all means, please.
I've seen a lot of people say the same thing, that they messed up by not doing Cena versus Edge. I'm quite frankly more than okay with it. Not because I wouldn't have loved to see it after all these years. Like, that was my feud as a kid. But a returning Edge who is absolutely a babyface at that point versus John Cena, who's of course going to be John Cena, a babyface. Edge was winning everything he was doing at that point. Everything he was doing, he was winning. So do you and what?
Except for a title.
Yeah, except for a title. But do you want to see Edge win the cap on that feud? Personally, I don't. I like that good guy John Cena overcame bad guy Edge in the long run. And I don't want to see Cena beating Edge either. So it would have been nice for the nostalgia, but where those two characters were at that point in time, I don't think it would have harmed that feud's legacy, but I think we were better off not getting it. I don't think it could have lived up to. You need a dastardly heel Edge against superhero John Cena. And I don't think Edge was ready for that yet at that point. The only time it could have maybe worked was against Judgment Day, but that was such a blip on the radar that it wouldn't have worked. So I get it, and you're not the only person. I'm in the minority. Many people wanted Edge versus Cena one last time. But quite frankly, I don't know.
Danny didn't. He said it would be garbage.
Would Cena versus Adam Copeland be garbage, though, Danny? Let me know.
Personally, I think they could have done it at Saudi Arabia. I know John has been about those shows, and I don't know where that lines up with the timeline at, but I think that's where you could have done that match. And it's just like, you could just like ignore that match if you wanted to, or you could watch it. And also they could both be faces there. It wouldn't be a deal. Like, like they've done the John Cena versus Triple H in Saudi Arabia, and like the Randy
Goldberg versus Taker.
Sure, we don't talk about that.
So I think it would have, again, not sure what the timeline is of John Cena's like stance on Saudi Arabia, but I think that would have been like the place to do it.
Yeah. No, it could have been. It could have been, but alas, not happening unless some people decide to act really fucking cool really fucking quickly. But yeah, I would.
All right, James, I demand tears.
Okay. No, I'll be honest with you. I actually, this is not me saying it for the pod. I don't know if it'll happen now, but I absolutely cried when he was talking. When he was speaking, I started to cry. And I have been watching John Cena since he answered Kurt Angle's open invitation on SmackDown. I watched that episode. What? Oh, no. What did he write?
No, it's Danny L34 in the comments. Goldberg versus Taker. Rewatched that the other day. Cried more than when I see an ASPCA commercial. I was just spit beer all over my computer, man.
That's really good.
Sorry to interrupt your emotions.
No, that was funny.
That popped the hell out of me.
Danny L34 being a real trooper in this comment section. I've been watching John Cena wrestle since he answered Kurt Angle's open challenge. And Kurt Angle asked him, what do you have that separates you from everyone else in the back? And he said, ruthless aggression. And every vein popped in his neck. And from that day, I was a John Cena fan. I love Dr. Thugonomics, but I can say from the bottom of my heart, I loved John Cena from the time he debuted, shook Undertaker's hand after the match. His first pay-per-view win was against Chris Jericho at Vengeance. That's how much like this man means to me. I've met John Cena multiple times. I've gotten beat up. I've gotten threatened. I've had stuff thrown at me. I've had people try to humiliate me at arenas and crowds at companies that have different letters in their name.
John Cena guy.
I am
not
what?
the part who not the group that beat you up, but the group that
they tried, but they failed. You couldn't see the C Nation with me, but they were there. I am a fruity pebble for life. I know it's silly. I know it's corny to say that a TV character could have had such a profound effect on my life, such a profound impact on my life. But being a John Cena fan, being a John Cena fan helped give me the strength to be comfortable with who I am as a human being, be comfortable with who I am as a person, and to, again, as corny as it sounds, never back down. So I will forever be indebted to the John Cena character that entertained me for 20 plus years on TV. I am indebted to the man himself behind the character for being able to be that character for so long. And I still have the $100 he gave me. So I'll hold on to that for a very long time too. I will do my best. This is my vow here on the Mark It Down podcast. The only event that unfortunately I think I'm going to miss is WrestleMania itself. I'm going to try and attempt to be at every John Cena event I can in 2025. And I will absolutely be at his retirement match. Doesn't matter where it is on the planet. I will be there. I don't know if they will let me into Saudi Arabia, but if it's there, I'll go. So thank you, John Cena. Canada, thank you for giving him a warm welcome. And as for who I want to see him wrestle, I would love to see him get his win back over Austin Theory because that was awful. In terms of people he hasn't wrestled, Bron Breakker is at the top of the list.
Yeah.
I want to see John Cena versus Bron Breakker. I want to see John Cena versus Carmelo Hayes. I want to see John Cena teaming with Trick. I want to see, I don't care that we've gotten it 70,000 times. I want to see John Cena versus Randy Orton one last time.
It's a scapegoat agreeing with a lot of your picks there, even threw in Punk again as well. And then Cody versus Cena, which is something Cody has asked for. And I really
think that's going to be the big one. I think Cena versus Cody is going to be not a Monday Night Raw or a Friday Night SmackDown. That is going to be a pay-per-view matchup. Premium live event matchup.
Possible retirement match? Do you think Cody could be the one retired?
I think Cody would want that. I don't know that it should be Cody because I love Cody and Cody is the face of the company right now. But Cody is not the future of the company. And John should go against the future of the company, in my opinion, to put over that person.
Fair.
If they could get Kurt Angle out of mothballs, I would pay for that matchup.
I think Kurt wants it. He just his neck will not let him do it. He asked when he was still going. He asked, and they just would not give it to him.
I would love to see John. I know some people are saying Punk, and I understand. No, I would love to see John versus. I don't care about seeing him wrestle anyone in the Bloodline.
I'd like to see a mix of like guys he beats and then guys that beat him. Like I don't
yes,
want to.
It shouldn't be one or the other. I completely agree. It should be both. Well said.
Yeah, he even mentioned in the press conference, like he's like, I'm on a bit of a losing streak, so I hope I can pick up some dubs on my way out. So, I don't think we're gonna get full blown worst year of my life, John Cena, even though he had a really good fucking year that year. But it'll be a mix. He'll put over the right people. He'll beat some people he can beat.
Yes.
And even I think in wins, he'll still put over whoever he's facing.
Scapegoat being spicy. John should go against the future face of the company, James? You mean John Cena versus MJF?
I would pay for that promo battle, man. I'd pick good money.
I absolutely would too. If they could get him in time. If they could get him in time and he's actually coming, I would love to see Cena versus Ricky Starks.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
And I think John could do wonders for Wardlow if Wardlow comes over in time.
Yeah, that'd be
so
good.
I think there's a lot of talent.
Thrice in a lifetime?
My heart couldn't handle it. My heart couldn't handle it.
Especially like heel, like Bloodline Rocky, that could be
Final Boss Rock versus pure white meat babyface John Cena.
This year, that was good enough.
What did you say?
We saw it at WrestleMania this year. It was good enough.
They directly asked him about another match with Rock at the press conference, and he said, "We'll see. I'm open to whatever is thrown at me." And really, I gotta wonder, the person who asked John at his retirement speech about Vince McMahon. You were really trying to get a soundbite there, weren't you, pal?
I thought John handled that incredibly well.
Yeah. Considering we know his stance isn't that great, he handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go to the comments real quick. Danny saying Rev is on tonight. is on one tonight.
Oh, well, okay. So here's what happened. You were talking about getting beat up at Ring of Honor shows dressed as John Cena, or almost beat up. And Danny said, sounds deserved. You provoked them. And I made the joke saying he was asking for it because of how he was dressed.
Wow. We had a good run before getting canceled here at the Mark It Down podcast.
And then Danny said, I'm on one tonight. Yeah, but yeah, I'm exhausted is the answer. I'm a little delirious.
Scapegoat saying 2026 John Cena is all elite, joins the Acclaimed, turns on Daddy Ass, and becomes Daddy Cena. I again, if a bunch of people could get really fucking cool about something really fucking quickly, that would be great. If we could get John said in the press conference he has no intention of rapping again, but I would love Cena versus Caster interacting in some way.
Or just awesome. give me that track.
Yeah, right. Danny.
No, saying, James. We all know it's gonna happen in TNA.
The true forbidden door, or the prohibited portal, they're calling it. Danny saying Cena might need a restraining order. He won't be able to see me, so it won't matter. And Danny saying, nah, Cena dodged the question. Like, I disagree.
I mean, he did dodge the question, but he did do it well. And, you know, I get it's one of those things like somebody's got to have the huevos to ask there, but
time and a place, John.
There's a time and a place. But Jack Scapegoat saying Joe Hendry versus John Cena. James's heart might explode, and or his dick. Like
it'll explode through my dick. But yeah, all right. Last comment for now. WWE always dodges the main questions. It's funny. Nobody is more dodgy than Triple H at these fucking press conferences. It's kind of an art form at this point. But let's move on. What do you got? You got anything on Cena yourself, Rev?
I mean, not much more than you could cover. I don't have the same emotional attachments to John Cena that you guys do. But by the time I got back into watching wrestling, it was John Cena sucks the whole time. I pretty much came back when Rock came back, but then at that point we were like getting really close to Summer of Punk, and I was so thrilled when Punk beat him at Money in the Bank. So like I was always one of those guys where it's like they just always put Cena in bad situations because he always fucking wins, but he's still a good dude and he can still really wrestle. It's just we're annoyed with his booking. And then eventually that U.S. title run obviously really changed everything, especially the discourse around Cena himself, both in the ring and with his booking. And it helped me to see the light, I would say. So I will always love John Cena. I think he's one of the greatest of all time. Michael Cole will always call him the GOAT, but wrestling is harder to pick the greatest of all time than even like basketball. So I think he did this the right way. He said in his press conference that he wanted to give fans, essentially give them a heads up so that they all have the opportunity to attempt to go out and see him, knowing that might be the final time, or it will be the final time they ever do see him. I think that was a good move by him, very classy, to be honest. And I expect big things from him in 2025. So I'm really excited to see how all of that truly goes down. All right, let us move on to our next match, which originally saw Damian Priest go up against Seth Freakin Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Let me just change my hat here really quick.
How are you doing?
Priest.
Okay.
My brand new Puerto Rico hat. Let's go. This match was interesting, and we'll start with the original portion of the match before we get into everything else, because I think basketball is not hard to find the GOAT. It's Bugs Bunny. Lola Bunny would like a word, sir. So
would Newman.
But this match, I think, is going to – the first thing that stood out to me was the consistent looking back towards the tunnel by both men, seeing if Drew was going to come out. I think, unfortunately, the other thing this is going to be remembered for is Damian didn't kick out.
Oh, my God, that was bad.
On the Falcon Hour. I don't know if he hit his head and was just thrown for a bit of a loop, or he forgot. I don't know what it was, but he very clearly didn't kick out at a pivotal point in the match because it was right before Drew was coming out, Matt. And I unfortunately think that's going to take away from what had been building to a good match and then completely got overshadowed with what would happen after.
Yeah, that definitely derailed it. Them looking at the entrance, it reminded me of that clip from The Simpsons when Homer is fighting the hobo in a boxing match, and the hobo keeps looking back at his corner to make sure his thimble is still there. So, but I think the issue there was that I think Drew McIntyre's music was supposed to hit during the pinfall, and it did. So Damian was just waiting for the music to play, but he should have kicked out. Like, he should have been like, okay, well, the music's not playing, I got to kick out. So the ref had to play it like, yeah, his shoulder was like off the mat or whatever. And that's when the music played. So it was clearly the sound people's fault, backstage. It was their fault. They fucked up, but Damian didn't react well regardless. So, and then we got into what happened next.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a very viable option. I'm sure like SRS or Meltzer will find out what was supposed to happen with that spot at some point. You're right. Like, that's a tough spot for Damian because on one hand, you should just kick out at 3 just in case. But on the other hand, he was probably told to not kick out, and he was probably just doing what he's told. So if that was the case, really tough spot for him. But let's get into the actual crux of this match, which happens right after the non-kick out when Drew McIntyre did eventually come down to the ring, cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, made this a triple threat. He very quickly got an advantage. Priest had just gotten hit by the Superplex Falcon Arrow combo. And then Seth was not doing too great himself. He was pretty much out on his feet. Drew came in, seemingly dominated for a short period of time. But then, obviously, once CM Punk comes down into the ring, jumps Drew, eventually brings him into the timekeeper's area where he just absolutely beat the fuck out of him with a chair, and then sent Drew back into the ring. And in a bit of cruel irony, hit Drew in the head with the World Heavyweight Championship, allowing Damian Priest to hit, I believe it was South of Heaven, and retain his title, while Punk was sitting crisscross applesauce on top of the announce desk holding the title in a very interesting visual, with Cole yelling at him, "Phil, what the hell are you doing?" which I thought was really funny. After the match, we also had Seth Rollins come over to the announce desk, super heated, screaming at Punk that he cost him not only this shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, but any future shots in the near future. While
with Priest is champion.
Yes, while Priest still holds the title. So Corey Graves ended up holding Seth back, as they had established on commentary, and they've had for a while, that him and Seth are very good friends. So we got a lot of different storylines out of this, James. Obviously, we still have everything going on with Priest and the Judgment Day. There was a segment before the match where Priest specifically asked everybody in Judgment Day to stay in the back, that he wanted to handle this himself. Finn was a little annoyed about that, even sarcastically calling Damian boss after Priest had walked away. We then obviously have the continuation of Drew and CM Punk. It seems like we now have CM Punk and Seth kind of reheating, and we do not have the Money in the Bank contract for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff going on there, James. You can take whatever you want and roll with it, but I think overall, while you guys were both going to be really annoyed and probably go off again, I thought this was a good match, a good triple threat, and then I thought the ending did really, really well here.
Fuck you, eat shit, stub your toe. I don't want to say anything mean about your dog because...
What are you saying fuck me for?
No, not you. Not you.
I know. I just wanted to do the 50-cent thing.
Matt, if you're going to put those babies on camera again, at least charge.
Yeah, for free?
Yeah. I'm so emotionally spent from CM Punk ruining my day for years. How do you not come across as the most bitter guy in the world at a certain point? How do you come across as, how is he not the bad guy at a certain point? Because, yes, Drew absolutely antagonized him. He keeps one-upping him. And then, ain't I a scoundrel? Ain't I a stinker? Fuck you. Fuck you, CM Punk. The match itself was okay to good. I feel bad for Priest because I really do think Priest is a strong talent, but he has, I think, been floundering as champion. The botch against Drew was bad. Like, could it have happened to anybody? Absolutely.
He got caught in the ropes.
Yeah,
I thought he did I thought he did a phenomenal job throughout the rest of that match afterwards.
Yeah, he did.
If I remember reading correctly, some of the dirt she's saying, he was praised backstage for being able to go through that. So
as he should be. I
wouldn't even call it a botch, by the way. That was just a freak accident.
Well, the top rope was messed up. There was reports about it being not well taken care of. Why Jade Cargill had issues with it.
AJ
had issues with it.
I think the ref told AJ before the match, like, hey, watch the top rope. It's a little fucky. And AJ did. He still screwed up those damn lucha ropes. But but yeah, I've been enjoying Priest's title reign, but maybe it's just more because I'm enjoying the Judgment Day as a whole, especially what's going on with him and Finn and, him and Dom and Liv and the whole thing. Maybe his title reign itself hasn't been as good as I think it is, at least to you, James.
Danny saying James is delusional just because Punk was directly involved and heavily to blame in the decline of AEW doesn't mean he's doing anything wrong. Now, the old man won't stop getting in the way of my Scottish warrior.
Or your visionary.
Yes,
getting everyone's way.
Which I want to get to in a second, but go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't got to say anything for a while. I'm hoping that, it leads to a Punk versus Drew match, obviously, but then Seth kind of fucks over Punk because, Punk is fucking over Drew McIntyre, and that would be all well and fine, but now he's fucking, indirectly, he's fucking over the entire country of Scotland. He's fucking over everyone who's a fan of Money in the Bank. He's fucking over Seth Rollins. His actions are not just affecting Drew McIntyre anymore. So, and I think those actions are going to have consequences.
As they should. They should.
Danny in the chat saying Drew keeps fucking around and finding out. And yeah, that's true. The thing is that now it has reached a point where it is, as you said, Matt, indirectly affecting other people and their careers, especially now with Seth, who already doesn't like CM Punk. We've established this.
And that's a great thing, too, because right off the bat, we were supposed to have gotten Seth versus Punk at Mania. That was going to be the feud. But because of Punk's injury, they had to pivot to Drew versus Seth. And indirectly, Drew versus Punk became the mega feud. And Drew took the ball and ran with it. Drew has been absolutely incredible in this feud with Punk. He's carried the majority of it because Punk couldn't be there all the time because of his injury. Although Punk has definitely been around more than you would expect for somebody who's injured. I got to give him that.
Yep.
But Drew has done a phenomenal job being the antagonist to Punk. Or I guess in my world, the protagonist against Punk. But Seth was the feud we were all expecting and looking forward to. So I'm glad that looks like it's getting heated up again. Because SummerSlam is probably going to be Punk versus Drew. And then I guess maybe on the road to Survivor Series, we get Seth versus Punk.
Am I insane for thinking we're getting this triple threat, though? At least at some point? Because obviously Seth and Drew don't like each other. But we established that. And yeah, they had the match to really kind of blow it off at Mania. But now we have this triangle of people who just fucking hate each other. It feels like we're just setting up for a triple threat, no?
It's possible. I wouldn't do that because you're turning 2 money matches into 1 money match. So for just the logistics of it, I would book it separately. But
I think you could do all of them. I think that's true. You get Drew Seth, you get Seth Punk, and then eventually everyone probably just keeps fucking around in each other's matches. And you get the triple threat at, a bigger pay-per-view.
I think coming out of SummerSlam, we're going to see a big shift in the dynamic for Monday Night Raw. Because I think we're all pretty much under the, we're all under the impression Gunther is going to take the title off Priest. So that opens up the main event scene. I would not be shocked if it comes at the hands of a betrayal from Finn Balor.
Yeah, because I think Judgment Day is probably fucked by then.
So I would suspect we're going to see Finn versus Priest moving forward, taking them both out of the world title scene. I think the world title picture is going to open up that we could see him. We're probably going to get Gunther versus Jay. We're probably going to get Gunther versus Seth. We're probably going to get Gunther versus Drew. And I wouldn't be shocked if Gunther eventually drops the title to Punk. Although that's not necessarily what I want, but I can see that's where it's going.
Serious gamble considering his health.
Yeah, I agree. But good.
And where does Chad Gable fit into this whole scenario?
He's going to get murdered in the next month anyway.
Did you ever see that movie, This Is the End? With like James Franco and Channing Tatum to Danny McBride. That's who he's gonna be to the Wyatt Six. Man, I love when I could reference that movie. It's a great movie. Although I referenced the one person from that movie who's just a bad person. But yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to coming out of this, despite me hating that Chicago son of a bitch. He almost makes me hate Chicago. He almost makes me hate deep dish pizza.
You can hate deep dish pizza. It's not pizza.
No, it's not pizza, but it's delicious.
It's a fucking casserole.
I know, Jon Stewart. I know. I love that bit. But I'm looking forward to what comes next. If Drew doesn't beat Punk at SummerSlam, he needs to take the title off of Punk eventually. That's just the only way this works. And Seth is going to be a fun feud for Punk.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is that, like, Money in the Bank, it's supposed to be an opportunity for guys to get the world title or at least be in the world title picture that might not have gotten there otherwise. And they sacrificed that to heat up a feud that's already got plenty of heat, that doesn't need any more heat. Like, I think it would have been just as effective if Punk had cost Drew McIntyre the Money in the Bank match than it was for him to cost him the cash in. Again, that's another thing. I think Punk being very selfish. It's like, oh, I'm gonna screw over Drew McIntyre tonight. Do I screw him over early and give somebody else an opportunity, or do I screw over Drew McIntyre later because he'll be one step closer to what he wants, because it'll get me more satisfaction because it'll hurt Drew more. Like, I think it would hurt Drew almost as much costing him Money in the Bank, you know what I mean, as opposed to just the cash in.
Well, I would disagree, James, because I know you want to go to what Danny said in the comments, but I would disagree because I feel like this was the play because it also involves Seth. And I think that's something, as James has said, they wanted to heat back up. So I think that's why they went this route instead of doing it during the Money in the Bank match. Now, obviously, Matt, as you said, the trade-off is no Money in the Bank for the next year. And you can feel different ways about that. Danny in the comments saying Money in the Bank needs a break. This is the break. Plus, obviously, Tiffany has the other one. So you still have...
And she didn't cash in tonight. So we're doing...
Which I always feel like the women do it within the first 48 hours.
They talked about it. Like 46% of the women have cashed in the same night.
Yeah. And then even then, or like that Monday too. Like the women for no reason do it usually pretty quickly. So I do understand your point, Matt. I do think that should somebody else have won the Money in the Bank contract, it would have been a way to elevate them. But I just think in the short term, it was the better play than then set up the long term for Punk, Seth, and Drew.
And the big thing too is looking at the players on the board. Carmelo is not ready yet. Like, we saw what happens when you put the Money in the Bank on somebody who isn't ready for it. We saw that happen with Austin Theory, and it backfired heavily. And that's not a knock on Hayes. It's just, it's not where he is in his career yet. He's not there. So that's part one. You have LA Knight. Arguably, but he's very clearly destined for a clash with Logan Paul, and that's going to be the bigger deal for him winning the U.S. title.
And if you were going to do that, you should have done it last year anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Then you have Andrade. No, thank you. No, thank you. Right? No, thank you.
Just Addison, your Money in the Bank.
So that was 3. Then you have Drew. That's 4. 5. Jey Uso. Who was the 6th?
No, that's it. Jay would be the last one.
No, that was 5.
Jay, Mello, Andrade, Gable, LA Knight, and
number
Drew.
one guy,
Gable is too heavily involved with what's going to happen with the Wyatt 6 to be a Money in the Bank winner. Unless they also had them screwing him out of Money in the Bank, which same storyline, different people. So realistically, the 2 people involved then that make sense to win this are Drew and Jay. And again, Jay is going right to the Bloodline. And you don't want a world title implication to get in the middle of an already bigger feud. The Bloodline feud, despite many people being tired of the Bloodline, is bigger than Jay winning Money in the Bank.
Yeah. Not to mention, too, if we all agree that Gunther is going to take the title off of Priest at SummerSlam, he's not losing that title anytime soon. Yeah. And Cody ain't losing his title anytime soon. So taking the Money in the Bank contract out of play for a while is probably a good idea. Because
especially after almost a year of Priest holding it.
Yeah, exactly. Neither of those guys are getting cashed in on. Maybe it's better that they just are not going to now. Just eliminate that from the equation, and you can book these 2 title runs as long and as strong as you want them. And I think that's another reason why they decided to go this route.
And I think the biggest thing about it is next year, whoever wins the Money in the Bank, there's going to be a lot of hype for that person as Money in the Bank winner. I think that's the big thing to come out of this. It's taking a year for a reset. I love Money in the Bank too. I love somebody with the briefcase. But after the year of Priest, everybody going, this guy's a friggin' idiot for not cashing in. What's wrong with him? I think a year of resetting it and then next year someone white hot with that briefcase, I think it's going to be perfect.
Yeah. I say it all the time. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And by next year, when this rolls around, we're really going to be clamoring for somebody to have the briefcase.
Yeah.
So
I'm clamoring now, but let's move on.
Fair enough. I think reasonable people can disagree about that, but I think we established that's probably why they did it. Well, speaking of the Money in the Bank briefcase, we then had the women's match for the Money in the Bank briefcase. This was Io Sky, Chelsea Green. I'm going to botch her name, even though I'm Irish. Lyra Valkyria.
There you go. There you go. Boom.
It's funny. I've been botching. Is it Lyra or Lyra? It is Lyra. Okay. I've been botching her first name more than her last name, which is funny. Anyway, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Zoey Stark. I think we established at the beginning of the show that I personally thought this was a better match. I think you guys agreed. There were some scary bumps in this match. Both Zoey Stark and I think Naomi both hit their heads on ladders when they probably shouldn't have, to the point where I thought somebody was going to get a concussion. But I think far and away, Matt, Chelsea Green stole the show in this match, to the point where I mentioned her before the winner, Tiffany Stratton. Her jumping up and down trying to get the briefcase without the ladder at the beginning was great. Her trying to knock the briefcase off the hinge with the ladder was great because she was afraid of heights. And then the ending of the match with her getting up there, and all Tiff had to do was just shake the ladder a little bit, scare the shit out of Chelsea, and send her through those 2 tables. Phenomenal ending. I love Chelsea Green. She was so good in this match. And I do think the right woman won here. Tiff is, I think, established enough where she's a credible threat to win a title, but still young enough where this is a very meaningful achievement for her.
Well, I think Money in the Bank is always a meaningful achievement. It just, depends on if you successfully cash in or not. James and I talked about it. Like, everyone who's not, for the men, everyone who's not been a world champion, who's cashed in unsuccessfully, has never gone on to win the world title except for Braun Strowman. And even that was like, kind of like by.
That was a mulligan because it wasn't supposed to go that way.
Yeah. So That being said, I don't agree. I don't think Tiffany Stratton was the right person to win this. I think Tiffany Stratton, everyone recognizes how great she is. She's already been NXT Women's Champion. I think a title in her future, a singles title on the main roster, is all but inevitable with or without Money in the Bank. And I think Money in the Bank works best for people that might not have gotten on that pedestal without it. And I think Chelsea Green is absolutely the perfect candidate. I think the only way Chelsea can win the title now is if like she's in a multi-woman match and somebody slips on a banana peel.
Which is what's going to happen, and it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah. They should bring back the championship scramble match for Chelsea Green. Absolutely.
Do something for her. I mean,
about that.
even I know we can say with hindsight, but like I personally think it was a mistake not having her at Elimination Chamber. You know, instead, what's her name? Raquel Rodriguez came back, and like, don't get me wrong, she did great in the chamber, but like, look where we're at now. I still, even without hindsight or not, I think it was a mistake not having Chelsea in that match, and I think I'm worrying about Chelsea. It's like, does she?
Oh, no.
Does Triple H not like her the way that he doesn't like Zack Ryder? I mean,
No. I'm sorry to interrupt your point, and I understand because I'm a huge Chelsea fan myself. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because she is always going to be working now, her character works best as a loser. And I agree. Money in the Bank would have been perfect for her character, but she should have been the first woman to unsuccessfully cash in Money in the Bank.
Yeah, or at least it should have been a bunch of like go down to the ring and then something really stupid happens and she just can't cash it in. It would have been hilarious with her with the briefcase, but I do think it's a good spot for Tiff. I really do.
I need it.
But all right, so let me ask you this. Let's look at past men and women, successful Money in the Bank winners and people who have cashed in. First one, Edge. Edge was going to be a world champion no matter what. It was just, that was absolutely. They were trying to make him a main eventer for years, and it didn't take off until he became a heel because of the Matt Hardy stuff. But they were planning on pushing him to that main event for as long as they could. He was going to get there. Now I want to look this up, actually.
Well, while you do that, I do think James has a point, Matt, because not only is, as you said, Tiff destined to win a singles title, her using the Money in the Bank to cash in, you know, as a heel, as a very arrogant heel at that. We saw a bit later the way she interacted with Trish Stratus backstage. I think it fits her character very well. She'd probably do something completely vicious and underhanded to in order to cash in. So I think it's a good setup. You're right. It all but confirms the fact that she's going to win the title or a title. But I just feel like that's fine. Like, yeah, you designated her to win a title, but since we already knew it, like, this is just okay. Now we have the anticipation of when will she do it? And I think that is going to add a lot to her character. And like I said, she gets the prestige of carrying around that briefcase for a while, which, as we've talked about before, is essentially having a title in and of itself.
And Matt, to your point, I do agree with you. I still think Chelsea would have been better as the Money in the Bank winner. And I don't think Tiffany ever needed this to win the title. I think she could have won the title without it. But I think if you're going to put it on anybody that isn't Chelsea and win, it should be Tiffany. Like,
I'll agree with that, but also I want to recognize Daniel Hernandez in the chat. He says Chelsea and Chad should have won. Thank you, Daniel Hernandez. Thank you for having my back. Let's talk about this actual match. I'm going to keep being negative. I do have some nice things to say. First off, Zoey Stark, she's in this match. She was in this match last year. I feel like she hasn't really, I like her, but I don't think she's really propelled herself in this past year to warrant her being in this match again. And she had some massive,
people pissed.
Like, you know, she almost killed herself.
Yeah. She missed that spot on Valkyria, right? And hit her head on the back of the ladder.
completely.
This was like I think I tweeted this out. This was, do you have a concussion? The pay-per-view match.
Sure. Yeah, she looked like shit tonight. I think they need to rethink what they're doing with her because it's not working. Again, I think she's lucky she even got in this match. I will say something nice before I hand it over to one of you two. Naomi doing the stretch spot between two players. I was thinking, I'm looking at it, I'm like, are they trying to stretch her more? And then they're not sure. It's still impressive. And then as she was getting stretched, one of the ladders started teetering. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a botch. And somehow she was able to hold on and hit the DDT. There was no botch. Fucking amazing. Way to go, Naomi. You really impressed the shit out of me. Like, I don't think there's many people that could have pulled that off. Like, again, where the ladder was and how it was teetering, I don't know how you pulled it off. Like, way to go.
Yeah, I was getting really nervous. I saw the same thing you did. That right ladder was starting to go. And I was like, oh, God, please don't fall. Please don't fall. Please don't fall. I don't know how the fuck she got the balance in order to turn around and hit that DDT. It was unbelievable.
I'm sure she would have been fine, but like it would have looked like shit at the very least. And instead, it was like a huge highlight. I would say like the second biggest highlight after Chelsea going through the tables.
Yeah. And I thought this match was interesting to me, James, too, because Michael Cole mentioned this after. It got off to a slow start. And I think part of that was somebody mentioned there was like a botch or two. And then also, too, I think people were just concerned that some of these women had gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Zoey Stark especially. So the crowd kind of went silent for a while, which, again, was mentioned by commentary. But the women, they pulled it together and they put on an absolute banger of a match, arguably the match of the night here.
No, I'd put it up there. I'd put it up there. Like, I think the only alternative would have been Sami and Bron. Danny did not like the Naomi spot. I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good spot. I love the ending sequences where you had who tossed Valkyria off the ladder? Was it it was Zoey Stark.
Zoey Stark, yeah, she hit that really nice on the horizontal ladder.
Yeah. Zoey hooks her and drops her on the horizontal ladder. Then you have Io hitting the sunset flip power bomb onto Zoey Stark.
Yeah,
so
I will always pop for that.
Yeah, it happened earlier in the night, but I still popped for it again.
Yeah, Andrade hit it on Carmelo.
Yes,
who was just bumping his ass off too.
So 3 people out in that match so far. Then you had Chelsea hitting the unprettier onto Naomi onto the ladder.
Yeah, which was sick.
Which was great. So now you have 4 people out. And then it's Chelsea and Tiffany. And then you have Tiffany just decimate Chelsea through the tables. I loved it. I love the sequence of events. People were taken out. There's no, why isn't anybody getting up? It's like, oh, I understand. Everybody's dead.
They got fucked up. Yeah. Danny thought match of the night. And I would be hard-pressed to argue with it.
Yeah. Like, it's preference at a certain point. If you would have preferred Sami and Bron or whatever. I thought the women absolutely killed it. And I'm excited for what this Money in the Bank reign could be. I'm really excited for it. So, good showing from all 6 women.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough how impressed I was that they were able to move on from the beginning of that match and outside of the Chelsea being hilarious stuff and bring it together and put on such a great performance. So kudos to all of them. They should all be really proud. And I am excited to see Tiff with this briefcase, even if Matt may not be, and I'm sure he'll be back in a second. But I think her promos are going to be great. I think her having the briefcase is going to be great for her character. I'm sure she'll use it a whole bunch as a weapon. So I'm excited to see what she can and will do with this briefcase.
Absolutely.
All right, let us head to our main event of the evening, which saw Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens take on the new version or the new incarnation of the Bloodline. We had Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and the debuting, and at least the match, Jacob Fatu, along with Tonga Loa on the outside. James, this match, to me, at least in the beginning, it felt kind of just standard 6-on-6 WWE match. Things really picked up, though, when we had our scheduled ref bump. Always a ref bump in a Bloodline match.
Oh, yeah.
After that, I thought things really picked up. You had Solo getting the shit kicked out of him, getting hit with all the finishers by Owens, Orton, and Rhodes. You had the table spot, Kevin Owens putting, I think it was it Fatu through the table, or was it
It was Jacob.
Yeah. Then you had the ref getting thrown into the steps. The fucking ringside doctor took a bump because she accidentally got kicked in the face. I thought Tonga Loa also almost had a concussion when he took that tope suicida and got put right into the announce desk.
It looked like if you had animated birds up his head, it would have felt right.
The table spot knocked Corey Graves. Well, they knocked both Michael and Corey completely off the air, and then Michael was able to get back, and you can hear Corey's static, which was wild. But eventually, though, you have Solo after an assist from Jacob Fatu, which interrupted a series of crossroads by Cody Rhodes onto Solo. You have Solo eventually hit, a Samoan spike, and he pinned your undisputed heavyweight champion. So I liked the end. It's very interesting to see that Solo pinned Cody. I did not expect Cody to be the one to take the pin. But I think, to me, the biggest takeaway was Jacob Fatu. Yeah. Boy, did he deliver, because they were seriously hyping him up on commentary as the match started and during all the entrances and stuff. And I was like, man, was this kid going to deliver? And I thought he more than delivered tonight. So I am very excited to continue to watch him wrestle. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see where Cody versus Bloodline goes from here, considering he just ate the pin from Solo. I also want to say hi to Musine, saying almost everyone seemed to be off their game tonight. And if you're talking about this match specifically, maybe there was something a little slow about the beginning of the match. Again, James, it felt very standard WWE, but the post ref bump stuff really brought me back into it.
I will be the first to admit, and it's my own fault, I was disappointed because of the placement of the match, because I assumed, considering everything else that was happening, if this was the main event, that Roman was coming back.
I never thought he was.
And you're a smarter man than I am, because I did. I really thought Roman was coming back.
I think it's got to be SummerSlam.
And now it would have to be. But I assumed he would come back tonight to set up for SummerSlam. But now I feel like he's not going to come back till SummerSlam, which, again, makes sense in its own way. But because of the placement of this match, I had my expectations unreasonably high, unfairly high. And that's my fault. That's on me. They gave me no reason to expect Roman coming back other than the placement of the matchup. And I let my imagination run wild. So I was disappointed, just points off, unfortunately, because of that. And that's unfair to the match, but it's just true. Other than that, this was a match. I understand not having Cody versus Solo right out the gate for the title. That's fine. But did you switch shirts?
Yeah, it's very hot in this basement.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's Dolph, right?
Yeah. Good eye.
Old school stealing the show.
Oh, yeah. But I understand not immediately starting off the bat with Cody and Solo. You got to build up to it. And that's why, quite frankly, I know you guys said a lot of people were shocked that Cody's the one who took the pin. He's the only one that made sense to me in this matchup to take the pin if the good guys were going to lose. Because, one, if a good guy takes a loss in a tag team, if a good guy champion takes a loss in a tag match, you're still covered. You're still protected. It's a tag match. Yeah, and there were shenanigans galore.
Yep. There was a gooch punch followed by a low blow. But
guys, I need to speak to the audience right now and say this. The Gorillas of Destiny are a very fun tag team. But individually, Tonga Loa is awful. I won't say the same for Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga is, I'd go as crazy. I'm going to go wild and say that he is good. Not great. He's good.
I'm a big fan of his.
I love Tama. But if I'm getting those two guys, what?
He won the Neverweight Championship, you know?
Yeah. From Machine Gun Carl Anderson. So,
Bullet Club on Bullet Club crime.
Yep. If I
and what the fuck is Haku's problem? Sorry,
I forever will be one of my favorite lines from BTE. Forever.
Which makes this feud funnier, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. If you're gonna give me Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa on the same side, just let them be a tag team. I don't need I understand if you're gonna do 3v3 and you have Jacob Fatu and Tonga Loa, you take Jacob Fatu.
Especially in his first match.
Yes. And Jacob looked absolutely incredible. You knocked it. He looked incredible in this matchup. His first ever move that he took in a WWE match was Randy Orton's off the second rope DDT. One of Randy's most popular, most recognizable moves.
I think that's just called vintage Randy Orton.
Sorry, Michael. That was the first move he's taken in a match in WWE. And as soon as he took it, he got up and no-sold it, making him come across. Great. Randy was ready. He was ready for the RKO. He turned into it. He's doing his and then he realizes Jacob is up. That was an epic moment that defines what type of character Jacob Fatu is going to be moving forward.
Not only that, but Jacob, Randy's I done fucked up, and then Jacob hit a great Samoan drop.
Absolutely, looked awesome. The better Jacob Fatu is going to look, the worse Solo Sikoa is going to look. And that sucks. It shouldn't be the case, but it is.
And that was evident tonight. Jacob looked great, and Solo, I'm just I don't buy this guy as the leader at all. I wonder, I know this is just kind of super off subject, but Jacob's wrestling in a shirt. I wonder if that's on him or if that's on the company. Do they not like the shape he got into? Maybe he's got a little bit of excess skin, or maybe they don't like his tattoos. I know that's been a thing I've talked about. Are they covering, or is that guy wearing arm sleeves because they don't like his tattoos, or they're worried lawsuits with tattoo artists? But yeah, it's just
he lost a lot of weight in a quick amount of time, so they might be wanting his body to settle a little bit, or they don't want to unveil the monster until he has a singles match.
And make Solo look even worse, because let's face it, out of these four guys, Solo is in the least best shape physically.
And I'm okay with that, because I loved Umaga's shape. Umaga wasn't in great shape, but he was a fucking beast.
I mean, and granted, let us say they're all in shape. Okay, it's just their body types, physiques.
Yeah.
Might not be peak WWE. Yes.
Physiques. Yeah. But Umaga was a creature. He was a monster. So I don't need all these. I don't expect Samoans to have peak physiques.
Yeah, no, I expect them to look like they should be playing defensive line for the Raiders.
Yeah.
But also, if you're not the best performer, and you're also not in the best shape, that's not great. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why I've always loved guys like Keith Lee and Chris Hero in more recent years. That's never bothered me, guys who maybe aren't bodybuilder type physiques. As long as you can do the job and you can do the job well, that's what's most important to me, not
I agree.
Eye candy or whatever,
Yeah, and I completely agree with that sentiment. I'd rather Kevin Owens, I'd rather Samoa Joe. I'd rather see these guys work well than look good in a Speedo. So, although I'm sure they would. But beyond the point of it all, I think the key to keeping Solo relevant in a world with Jacob Fatu, unfortunately, because Jacob is so good at it, you have to keep Jacob off the mic. Because the moment he can outspeak Solo, and he can, and he will, the moment he does that, Solo becomes irrelevant. So Solo needs to be the mastermind of it all, and Jacob needs to be the rabid dog of the group.
Yeah, the werewolf.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, James. You, the Gorillas of Destiny, as we all do, and you think they're better together than they are apart. Do you think they should have done a 4v4 tonight? And if so, who would have been your fourth man in?
That's the tough part. Yeah. That's the tough part.
My team.
Jay's a little busy at the moment.
Yeah, Jay. If you're sticking with SmackDown, which you have to,
Yeah.
I would have probably, just because of his history with the group, you probably slot out LA Knight. Like, he doesn't work for the long term because of his feud with Logan Paul, but he's got history with the Bloodline. He's a top babyface, and he's got. I think he would work. So, because he was part of the Cody Rhodes celebration at WrestleMania after Cody won. So I'd probably pull LA Knight in, but it's not like there's a lot of options really to run with.
Would you go with Cena if Cena came out tonight? Do you think no? Wouldn't waste
because then it's just another loss for Cena.
Yeah. You'll be taking plenty of those in the next year. We
So
don't
anyway,
no, I have actually things to talk about, Matt.
Fine.
Because when we started talking about this match, Matt had stepped away. So A, Matt, nice Cyclones hat, and B, I wanted your thoughts on the actual match itself.
I loved everything Jacob Fatu did. I don't even think we saw the best of Jacob Fatu, but what we saw
which is
was
crazy.
Great introduction to Jacob Fatu. That's what you saw tonight. That low blow, I think the first one was sufficient. I guess like maybe he thought it didn't come off as good, so he did it twice, which didn't bother me, but I know it did bother some people. And that's not a great look. The fact that like that was his one big spot in the match. He messed that up, the Tonga Loa, and then he also messed up his. What did I say wrong?
No. I was just agreeing with you. The low blow looked bad. Yeah.
He messed up his intro to WWE when he was supposed to break up a pinfall attempt. So that's two, like not the worst botches in the world, but like noticeable botches when you're not really doing anything else. So that's kind of hard to look past, in my opinion. Hopefully, his third outing will be much better.
I'm going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on the low blow, and here's why. Owens was setting up for the package, well, what used to be the package pile driver. So whoever he was trying to hit it on, I think it was on Jacob Fatu, but I don't remember. Whoever he was hitting it on, it was on Tama. Thank you. Their head was right there.
Yeah.
So had they gone for the usual, like all the way through the legs, you really more end up punching the guy or hitting the guy with your bicep than your fist. Tama would have got punched right in the head. So I think Tonga just tried to short it a little bit, and he shorted it too much, and ended up, like I said, really just getting Owens in the gooch as opposed to like really hitting a low blow. So either Owens didn't feel it or he didn't sell it, and Tonga just did a second one. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I could kind of see why he didn't want to punch his brother in the head.
I love your optimism. I love you William Regaling the situation. But as somebody who has been watching Tonga Loa for a very long time.
Fair. I've only seen him a few times, and it was mostly through BTE.
I'll put it to you this way. I've been watching him since he was Camacho.
Same.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. Well, unless you guys have anything else on that match, that was Money in the Bank. Obviously, some really big news items coming out of this. John Cena, I think, being the headliner, and I expect to see that on SportsCenter's Bottom Line later. But also, too, you had the World Heavyweight Champion getting pinned. You had CM Punk ruining the Money in the Bank cash-in for Drew McIntyre and reigniting his feud with Seth Rollins, along with Priest retaining. You have Tiffany Stratton becoming the women's Money in the Bank holder. So, Matt, what did you think overall of this pay-per-view? I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I really disliked it a lot, unfortunately.
Well, all your guys and girls lost.
I didn't like a lot. I think the only decision I liked was Sami Zayn beating Bron Breakker. I think that made sense. I liked that match. There was good spots in matches tonight, but like I'm disappointed. Overall, just disappointed, and I'm like,
That's fair.
Also, at this moment, I just think I'm not convinced by the bloodline. Like they could literally Roman Reigns could come back tomorrow and Solo could pin him clean, and I still wouldn't believe that like Solo is a top guy. He's the new tribal chief. Like I wouldn't buy it.
So to that, if I may, I think that's the point.
Yeah, he's so young, right? And I think that's part of it.
We're supposed to look at Solo and not buy him as the replacement for Roman. That the only reason he's in charge is because when he was still in it, the only other person was Jimmy Uso. And then he brought in all these rabid Tongans and Samoans. That's why Paul finally had enough, because he's just bringing in all these, as he put it, like thugs. So Solo is making decisions that Roman would have never made. And that's what's making him dangerous. So when Roman comes back, Roman could easily overpower Solo. The problem is going to be he can't overpower all four of them. And that's what the story is going to be. That's what's going to carry us to War Games when we get the old bloodline, Roman, the Usos, and Sami versus the new bloodline. And if the old bloodline loses, then we have a real problem. Then I'm 100% with you. But I would be shocked if that's what happens.
Yeah.
I don't see the new bloodline as being very dangerous, though. The only time I felt like they were dangerous was when Tama Tonga like busted open Kevin Owens really bad that one time on SmackDown randomly, and just like Jacob Fatu all together like as a character.
Yeah.
Like the Girls of Destiny, I don't really find dangerous, and Solo Sikoa I don't find dangerous. So it's just kind of like I don't buy it, you know.
I think they could do more to make these guys seem a little more unhinged. I thought Fatu tonight was sold as incredibly unhinged, but they need to be wreaking more havoc and destruction, I think, in order to truly sell how dangerous they are. And I think, James, to your point, not only can Roman not take them on, 4-on-1, but he doesn't have the loyalty of these men. Solo does. And Solo is young, brash, arrogant, and probably a little stupid. And I think Corey did a good job of bringing this up on commentary. The Bloodline had rules.
Yeah.
Right? They might not have been rules you liked, but they did have rules. And there was a line and a way they did things. This version of the Bloodline, as Danny calls them, Bloodline Wolf Pack, this is all-time great. This version of the Bloodline, they have no rules. There is no line they won't cross. They put a fucking almost 70-year-old man through a table the other week. And shout out to Paul Heyman for taking that bump. But there is no line they won't cross. And I think, James, that's what it's going to be, is that they're selling them as that level of dangerous. And I think, to your point, Matt, they haven't really shown us that to outside of a couple of segments. So they really, really, really need to up the violence a little bit. And I know that might make some of the suits a little squeamish over in Stanford, but if you really want to sell how dangerous this group is, that to the point where it forces Roman Reigns to come back and Solo refuses to give up power, then you're gonna have to up the stakes a little bit. And I think hopefully that's something we can see in the coming weeks on SmackDown.
Definitely.
James, did you have any more thoughts on the overall show before we jumped off?
I sympathize with Matt because I think it was the last pay-per-view the three of us covered where I talked about sometimes it's a good show, but none of the guys I like win. So it just makes it hard for me to enjoy it. I think it was an AEW pay-per-view. And
you're also emotionally devastated by John Cena right now.
I am an empty void. Thank God I just watched Inside Out 2, so I have a somewhat good handle on my emotions right now. But in general, I'm sad. But it's like John said in the presser afterwards, this isn't a bad thing. This is a good thing. It's sad, but John Cena's going out on his own terms the way he wants to, and we're going to get a whole lot of John next year. So, yeah, end of an era.
Yeah, that's like I said, I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway here is just that John Cena is retiring, and it's going to grab all the headlines, and what happens from here is going to be very, very interesting to watch. Not just with Cena. I think obviously he said he's still filming Peacemaker season 2 right now.
Yeah,
So
end off.
yeah, he's going to be gone for a little while, but when he comes back, it's going to be a really big deal. And I know we can't see him, but all eyes will be watching.
And not all of us got to see Inside Out 2, James. So not all of us are as emotional. I can't even think of the word. Not intact, but yeah. Not all of us are handling it as well as you are tonight. So.
Oh no, I told you, my tears happened. They just happened off camera.
Good for you. I mean, that's.
Okay, well, on that note, I would like to thank everyone so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. We would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed, if you enjoyed what you saw tonight. Liking the video lets us know that you are enjoying what we're doing, and we can help cater our content to things you guys want to watch and see. And if you want to see more of us, as I mentioned, please subscribe. We will be back here maybe on Monday, maybe tomorrow. I don't know if anyone wants to do NXT. I don't know if anyone's going to do Raw, but I can guarantee you we'll be back here on Wednesday to cover AEW Dynamite. Got the Gym Pack Zone on Thursdays. Matt's been covering a bit of SmackDown on Fridays as well. So we have most of your week covered. So check us out by subscribing. Also, obviously, we do the pay-per-views for AEW, WWE, and TNA Impact. If you want to check us out on social media, you can, and you're here on YouTube, you can check out all the links in the description below: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. If you want to follow us on Twitter and you're listening to us on either Facebook or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or which we are on, you can follow us on Twitter at marketdown_pod. You can check us out on Instagram. It's just marketdownpod. And if you want to follow us here on YouTube, it's youtube.com/marketdown3665. Gents, any final remarks before we head out for the evening?
Yes. 1, go follow Matt's Minifigs on Instagram. He's doing funny stuff. 2, we gained some subs during this video, so thank you guys for joining us. We are dangerously close to 900, so we really appreciate you guys. We saw a lot of growth this week. You guys are awesome, and looking forward, we're just one step closer to 1,000. But whether it's 1, 100, 10, 15,000, or whatever, we appreciate each and every one of you. And see you soon.
Yeah, we're really enjoying chopping up with everybody as we continue to grow. James, did we have any more news on our giveaways? Or have they been done?
No, they haven't been done. It's on me. You guys know I had a little rough go of it for a little while, and I've been trying to get back into the swing of things. But I will be announcing at least one winner in the next week or so. We have plenty of people who are waiting on the Becky Lynch autograph, so we'll do what we can for it.
I'm still very jealous of whoever wins that. But be sure to keep an eye out both here on YouTube and our social media platforms, because I imagine that's where that announcement's going to take place. So, and for any more giveaways, if you sign up, and follow us and stuff, you'll be able to get entered into that stuff as well.
Absolutely. All
right. So on that note, for Matt Cascone and James Ashanti, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everyone, and I hope you all enjoyed your 4th of July weekend. And thanks for spending some of it with us. Peace.